Diplomatic rank is the system of professional and social rank used in the world of diplomacy and international relations. A diplomat's rank determines many ceremonial details, such as the order of precedence at official processions, table seatings at state dinners, the person to whom diplomatic credentials should be presented, and the title by which the diplomat should be addressed. International diplomacy ranks. The current system of diplomatic ranks was established by the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. There are 3 ranks, 2 of which remain in use. Ambassador. An ambassador is a head of mission who is accredited to the receiving country's head of state. They head a diplomatic mission known as an embassy, which is usually headquartered in a chancery in the receiving state's capital. A papal nuncio is considered to have ambassadorial rank, and they preside over a nunciature. Commonwealth countries send a high commissioner who presides over a high commission and has the same diplomatic rank as an ambassador. Minister. A minister is a head of mission who is accredited to the receiving country's head of state. A minister heads a legation rather than an embassy. However, the last legations were upgraded to embassies in the late 1960s, and the rank of minister is now obsolete. An envoy or an internuncio is also considered to have the rank of minister. Charges d'affaires. A charge d'affaires envoy is a permanent head of mission who is accredited by his country's foreign minister to the receiving nation's foreign minister. In cases where the 2 governments have not reached an agreement to exchange ambassadors, a charge d'affaires ad interim is a diplomat who temporarily heads a diplomatic mission in the absence of an ambassador. The body of diplomats accredited to a country formed the diplomatic corps. Ambassadors have precedence over charges, and precedence within each rank is determined by the date on which diplomatic credentials were presented. The longest-serving ambassador is the dean of the diplomatic corps, who speaks for the entire diplomatic corps on matters of diplomatic privilege and protocol. In many Catholic countries, the papal nuncio is always considered the dean of the diplomatic corps. The ranks established by the Vienna Convention modify a more elaborate system of ranks that was established by the Congress of Vienna. Ambassadors, legates, and nuncios were personal representatives of the sovereign. Envoys and ministers represented the government, and were accredited to the receiving sovereign. Ministers resident formed an intermediate class between ministers and charges. This rank was created by the Congress of Aix-la-Chapelle. Charges d'affaires were accredited by the foreign minister to the receiving foreign minister. The rank of envoy was short for envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary, and was more commonly known as minister. For example, the envoy extraordinary and minister plenipotentiary of the United States to the French Empire was known as the United States Minister to France, and addressed as Monsieur le Ministre. An ambassador was regarded as the personal representative of his sovereign as well as his government. Only major monarchies would exchange ambassadors with each other, while smaller monarchies and republics only sent ministers. Because of diplomatic reciprocity, great powers would only send a minister to a smaller monarchy or a republic. For example, in the waning years of the Second French Empire, the United Kingdom sent an ambassador to Paris, while Sweden, Norway and the United States sent ministers. The rule that only monarchies could send ambassadors was more honored in the breach than the observance. This had been true even before the Congress of Vienna, as England continued to appoint ambassadors after becoming a republic in 1649. Countries that overthrew the monarchs proved to be unwilling to accept the lower rank accorded to a republic. After the Franco-Prussian War, the French Third Republic continued to send and receive ambassadors. The rule became increasingly untenable as the United States grew into a great power. The United States followed the French precedent in 1893 and began to exchange ambassadors with other great powers. Historically, the order of precedence had been a matter of great dispute. European powers agreed that the Papal Nuncio and Imperial Ambassador would have precedence, but could not agree on the relative precedence of the kingdoms and smaller countries. In 1768, the French and Russian ambassadors to Great Britain even fought a duel over who had the right to sit next to the Imperial Ambassador at a court ball. After several diplomatic incidents between their ambassadors, France and Spain agreed in 1761 to let the date of arrival determine the precedence. In 1760, Portugal attempted to apply seniority to all ambassadors, but the rule was rejected by the other European courts. The Congress of Vienna finally put an end to these disputes over precedence. After an initial attempt to divide countries into 3 ranks faltered on the question of which country should be in each rank, the Congress instead decided to divide diplomats into 3 ranks. A 4th rank was added by the Congress of Aix-la-Chapelle. Each diplomatic rank had precedence over the lower ranks, and precedence within each rank was determined by the date that their credentials were presented. The Papal Nuncio could be given a different precedence than the other ambassadors. The Holy Roman Empire had ceased to exist in 1806, so the Austrian ambassador would accumulate seniority along with the other ambassadors. Bilateral diplomacy in modern diplomatic practice. There are a number of diplomatic ranks below ambassador. Since most missions are now headed by an ambassador, these ranks now rarely indicate a mission's relative importance, but rather reflect the diplomat's individual seniority within their own nation's diplomatic career path and in the diplomatic corps in the host nation. Ambassador, ambassador at large, minister, minister, counselor, counselor, first secretary, second secretary, third secretary, attaché, assistant attaché. The term attaché is used for any diplomatic agent who does not fit in the standard diplomatic ranks, often because they are not members of the sending country's diplomatic service or foreign ministry, and were therefore only attached to the diplomatic mission. The most frequent use is for military attachés, but the diplomatic title may be used for any specific individual or position as required. Since administrative and technical staff benefit from only limited diplomatic immunity, some countries may routinely appoint support staff as attachés. Attaché does not therefore denote any rank or position. Note that many traditional functionary roles, such as press attaché or cultural attaché, are not formal titles in diplomatic practice, although they may be used as a matter of custom. Multilateral diplomacy. Furthermore, outside this traditional pattern of bilateral diplomacy, as a rule on a permanent residency basis, certain ranks and positions were created specifically for multilateral diplomacy. An ambassador at large is equivalent of an ambassador and assigned specific tasks for a region in which he is assigned various assignments aimed at multi-track diplomacy. A permanent representative is the equivalent of an ambassador, normally of that rank, but accredited to an international body, not to a head of state. A resident representative is also a member of the diplomatic corps, but is below the rank of ambassador. A representative is accredited by an international organization to a country's government. The resident representative typically heads the country office of that international organization within that country. A special ambassador is a government's specialist diplomat in a particular field, not posted in residence, but often traveling around the globe. The U.S. Trade Representative is an ambassador of cabinet rank, in charge of U.S. delegations in multilateral trade negotiations. The USTR's Special Agricultural Negotiator also typically holds an ambassadorial appointment. Special envoys. Special envoys have been created ad hoc by individual countries, regional powers, and the United Nations. A few examples are provided below. Belgium. In 2005, a former cabinet member, Pierre Chevalier, served as Special Envoy of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe presidency to mediate in the Gazprom natural gas pipeline crisis involving Russia, Ukraine, and the European Union. India. During the 2006 democracy movement in Nepal, India sent on April 18 Karan Singh, who is related to royalty in both predominantly Hindu countries, as special envoy to neighboring Nepal, where increasingly violent opposition started its successful challenge of the king's autocratic rule. Another instance was during the 2009 Copenhagen Climate Change Summit. India appointed senior diplomat Shyam Saran as a special envoy to coordinate the negotiating position of the basic countries. United Kingdom appointed special envoys from time to time. European Union appointed various special representatives, e.g., in 2005, as a response to events in Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan. The Council of the EU appointed Jan Kubis as its special representative for Central Asia. Pakistan. Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif appointed Ambassador Javad Malik as Pakistan's special envoy for trade and investment based in the GCC Gulf region, with a diplomatic rank of an ambassador. United States appointed numerous special envoys, including a special envoy for Northern Ireland with the diplomatic rank of ambassador to help with the Northern Ireland peace process. As of 2008, the position was occupied by Paula Dobryansky. Special envoys have been appointed for Sudan, Syria, Middle East peace, Eurasian energy, climate change, and human rights in North Korea. Other posts include Special Representative, Special Advisor, and Special Coordinator. The Secretary-General of the United Nations personally mandates special envoys for a particular field, including United Nations Special Envoy for HIV/AIDS in Africa, United Nations Special Envoy on Climate Change, United Nations Special Envoy for Kosovo, United Nations Special Envoy for Darfur, United Nations Special Envoy for Refugees. The Director General of UNESCO appoints special envoys who can use their talents and renown to further the organization's ideals and action. Envoys include Special Envoy for Basic and Higher Education Sheikh Moza bint Nasra al-Misned of Qatar, Special Envoy for Haiti, the Right Honourable Mikhail Jean, former Governor-General of Canada, Special Envoy for Water Prince Talal bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, Special Envoy on Literacy for Development Princess Laurentian of the Netherlands. A sui generis case is the High Representative for Bosnia and Herzegovina. Usage worldwide. Most countries worldwide have some form of internal rank, roughly parallel to the diplomatic ranks, which are used in the foreign service or civil service in general. The correspondence is not exact, however, for various reasons, including the fact that according to diplomatic usage, all ambassadors are of equal rank, but clearly ambassadors of more senior rank are sent to more important postings. Some countries may make specific links or comparisons to military ranks. Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Officers from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade are graded into 4 broad bands, with the senior executive service following above. Ambassadors, high commissioners and consuls general usually come from the senior executive service, although in smaller posts the head of mission may be a BB4 officer. Generally speaking, counselors are represented by BB4 officers, consuls and first and second secretaries are BB3 officers, and third secretaries and vice-consuls are BB2 officers. DFAT only posts a limited number of low-level BB1 staff abroad. In large Australian missions, an SS officer who is not the head of mission could be posted with the rank of minister. British Diplomatic Service. Her Majesty's Diplomatic Service differentiates between officers in the senior management structure and those in the delegated grades. SMS officers are classified into 3 pay bands, and will serve in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in London as permanent Under-Secretary. Directors General, directors, or heads of department. Overseas they will be ambassadors, or consuls general. Deputy heads of mission are counsellors for larger posts. In the delegated grades, officers are graded by number from 1 to 7. The grades are grouped into bands lettered A-D. Overseas, A2 grade officers hold the title of attaché. B3 grade officers are third secretaries, C4s are second secretaries, and C5s and D6s first secretaries. D7 officers are usually deputy heads of mission in medium-sized posts, are heads of mission in small posts. In the British Civil Service, grades rank from 7 up to 1, with grade 1 being permanent secretary. Grade 7 was formerly known as principal officer, grade 6 as senior principal officer. Equally, pay band A is the most senior, with B, C, and D following. The 1 to 7 grading system in the UK is the reverse to that of the United States, where higher numbers denote higher seniority. If head of mission and deputy head of mission is senior to first secretary followed by second and third secretary, then these ranks should logically follow the seniority of grades in the Home Civil Service. French Diplomatic Service. There are 4 ranks in the French Diplomatic Service: Secrétaire des Affaires étrangères or secretaries, Consular des Affaires étrangères or counsellors, Ministre plenipotentiaire, the most common rank for heads of mission, but it also applies to some ministers, counsellors in important embassies, Ambassadeur de France, an honorary dignity. Brazilian Diplomatic Service. There are 6 ranks in the Brazilian Ministry of External Affairs: Terceiro Secretario, Segundo Secretario, Primeiro Secretario, Conselheiro, Ministro de Segunda Classe, Ministro de Primeira Classe. Embaixador is the honorary dignity conceded permanently when a minister of first class assumes a post overseas. It can also be a temporary assignment when carried on by a lower-ranked diplomat, a Brazilian politician of high level. Spanish Diplomatic Corps. After the merger of the Consular and Diplomatic Corps, the current 8 grades of Spanish career diplomats are: Funcionario en Prácticas, title held during the 1-year training program at the diplomatic school; Secretario de Embaixada de Terceira Classe, secretary; Secretario de Embaixada de Segunda Classe; Secretario de Embaixada de Primeira Classe. Conselheiro, a consular, lowest grade to be appointed consul general. Ministro plenipotenciario de Terceira Classe, commonly known as minister, lowest grade to be appointed ambassador. Ministro plenipotenciario de Segunda Classe. Ministro plenipotenciario de Primeira Classe. Embajador de España. Not all Spanish ambassadors hold this grade, which is limited by law to 3% of the total corps. United States Foreign Service. In the United States Foreign Service, the personnel system under which most U.S. diplomatic personnel are assigned, a system of personal ranks is applied which roughly corresponds to these diplomatic ranks. Personal ranks are differentiated as Senior Foreign Service or Member of the Foreign Service. The SFS ranks in descending order are: Career Ambassador, awarded to career diplomats with extensive and distinguished service. Career Minister, the highest regular senior rank. Minister Consulate and Counselor. In U.S. terms, these correspond to 4, 3, 2 and 1-star general in the military, respectively. Officers at these ranks may serve as ambassadors and occupy the most senior positions in diplomatic missions. Members of the Foreign Service consist of 5 groups, including Foreign Service officers and Foreign Service specialists. Like officers in the U.S. military, Foreign Service officers are members of the Foreign Service who are commissioned by the President. As with warrant officers in the U.S. military, Foreign Service specialists are technical leaders and experts, commissioned not by the President but by the Secretary of State. Ranks descend from the highest FS1, equivalent to a full colonel in the military, to FS9, the lowest rank in the U.S. Foreign Service personnel system. Personal rank is distinct from and should not be confused with the diplomatic or consular rank assigned at the time of appointment to a particular diplomatic or consular mission. In a large mission, several senior diplomats may serve under the ambassador as minister counselors, and first secretaries. In a small mission, a diplomat may serve as the lone counselor of embassy. Consular counterpart. Formally, the consular career forms a separate hierarchy. Many countries do not internally have a separate consular path of stream, and the meaning of consular responsibilities and functions will differ from country to country. Other titles, including Vice-Consul General, have existed in the past. Consular titles may be used concurrently with diplomatic titles if the individual is assigned to an embassy. Diplomatic immunity is more limited for consular officials without other diplomatic accreditation, and broadly limited to immunity with respect to their official duties. At a separate consular post, the official will have only a consular title. Officials at consular posts may therefore have consular titles but not be involved in traditional consular activities, and actually be responsible for trade, cultural, or other matters. Consular offices, being nominally more distant from the politically sensitive aspects of diplomacy, can more easily render a wide range of services to private citizens, enterprises, etc. They may be more numerous since diplomatic missions are posted only in a nation's capital, while consular officials are stationed in various other cities as well. However, it is not uncommon for individuals to be transferred from one hierarchy to the other, and for consular officials to serve in a capital carrying out strictly consular duties within the consular section of a diplomatic post, e.g., within an embassy. Some countries routinely provide their embassy officials with consular commissions, including those without formal consular responsibilities. Since a consular commission allows the individual to legalize documents, sign certain documents, and undertake certain other necessary functions, depending on the practice of the individual country. Consular services may be limited to services provided for citizens or residents of the sending country, or extended to include, for example, visa services for nationals of the host country. Sending nations may also designate incumbents of certain positions as holding consulary authority by virtue of their office, while lacking individual accreditation, immunity and inviolability. For example, 10 U.S.C. Sections 936 and 1044A identify various U.S. military officers who hold general authority as a notary and consul of the United States for, respectively, purposes of military administration and those entitled to military legal assistance. A nation may also declare that its senior merchant sea captain in a given foreign port is, or its merchant sea captains generally, has consulary authority for merchant seamen.